This time, the theme is shading the letters with color or coloring the characters. What is this? Isn't this obvious? Is what you may be thinking. But I have tried using a different technique to color the characters. Magenta, cyan, yellow. MCY. If these three colors are superimposed, black color is produced. Subtractive color mixing, as it is called, is the fundamental color mixing used in today's color printing. By adding Sumi ink to this YMC, we get a four-layer color by which everything in the universe is expressed. In the 1960s and 1970s, print shops made numerous test prints to check the press registration and degree of leakage of the ink. In order not to waste valuable paper, it was printed on waste paper, which was paper which already had print on it. When I visited a printing shop and looked at the waste paper thrown out by the printing press, I noticed that sometimes they were surprisingly beautiful ones. With layers of ink overprinted at random, the waste paper becomes a heavier black with each overprint. In other words, I realize that the black in printing is born by the superimposition of various colors. The black in the center, it is made of three colors: yellow 100, magenta 100, and cyan 100. That is, it is a black formed by the overlap of 300% ink. In other words, each of these three primary colors is fully mixed in the black color created by subtractive mixing. That is where I tried an experiment. This was in 1959. Since the end of 1950s, I have been paying attention to proof prints for each color and divided colors, and I use this color print as the key to support my color proofing. If requested in advance, they will make a color print for each color of YMCK for the difference in proofreading. I don't think other designers would do such support work. I would study each of the YMCK prints separately, trying to read in detail which part of the plate making for each color had a weakness in its density setting. Well, what you see here is the face of a woman drawn by German artist Kranach. Small squares have been randomly taken off the YMC color separation plates of Cranach's original picture. The three color plates of CMY are arranged here, from which the squares have been removed. Let us overlap these three colors and see. First, overlapping the magenta and cyan, superimposing yellow on top. If we do that, small parts of colors are removed from Cranach's original image and various colors pour out from the gloomy background or the character's skin. We have come to see how black as a color actually wraps multiple colors into it, light and darkness, especially darkness. It actually has different colors hidden within it. This kind of idea was discovered when I went to the printing shop site and watched the plate making process with my own eyes. That from a black color, various colors can be brought out. This is a work from the year 1959. In 1960, this same technique was developed to try and colorize a monochromatic picture. Aiko Hozoe, whose works were introduced earlier, won the Grand Prix of the Fujifilm contest with his work Men and Women. I was requested by Fujifilm to use that as a cover of a compilation. This was the kind of design I endeavored. As done previously with Cranach's face, the same technique was used on Mr. Jose's original black and white to chip off various netted concentrations. I tried to have a subtraction from the black of the monochromatic picture. The accumulation of such subtractions created a design with color. It is a work from 1960, 50 years ago. In my own way, my efforts went towards being able to create a colorful design from a black and white manuscript. Yellow, magenta, cyan, YMC, focusing on the three primary colors of printing. As a development of this technique, I co-created a musical score called Corona with the contemporary music composer Toru Takemitsu, who I was close with. This was in 1962. Using photogravure, a pattern in cyan, magenta and yellow were printed in single color on transparent film. Each one had a pattern created by the technique called decalcomania. In decalcomania, coloring material is kept on top a sheet of paper. Before the color dries, another paper is kept on top and pressed against it to transform it into an indefinite form. It is a technique like instant woodblock printing. This is a part of the original picture that I co-created with Mr. Takemitsu. Three different decalcomania patterns are printed one by one on films. These films are brought together to overlap to create a multiple pattern. A gauge of concentric circles that resembles a staff notation is arranged in the background. This gauge represents the pitch of sound, showing lower notes as one goes towards the center and the pitch increases going outwards. All this is collected and is made into sheet music for stringed instruments. For example, if a player chooses the third zone from the top, he or she will go around this circle clockwise from top in about 1 minute. It is separated in such a way that by picking up the changes in the noise patterns, such as the density of the colors that meet on the circular band or the fluctuation of the texture, one can pluck the strings or strike a drum. If each player chooses a zone of their choice and performs, a complex composite sound is produced. This type of music score is called a graphic score, and it became popular around the world in 1960s and 1970s as a composition technique for creating indefinite sound reverberations. This work has gained a reputation as one of the world's unique attempts to create a graphic score that uses color as the main component. Inka Shimbo, who made this video, used this sheet music to draw a play of mixed colors in motion. So let's take a look. It is a little different from the usual performance method, but I think it conveys the mood of this song well. The piece used here is actually a part of Kansho, choral iron, and orchestra music by Mr. Takemitsu. It is a work full of interesting noises for a few minutes. The sheet music was named Corona, Corona for strings, after the pattern of energy radiation within the sun that symbolizes solar activity. Well, then, here is one more. This one you will see is my experiment in colored letters from the early 1970s. For example, here is Sugiura written in black Mincho font. These characters have been printed on transparent film and the black part has been scraped with a knife. You then get this kind of a design. It is then colored yellow. Further, another copy of the same characters are scraped differently, colored with magenta and brought together. Yet another one is scraped in a different way, and this time it is colored cyan and piled with the rest. In other words, the characters in the Mincho typeface just should be a single black color when the three layers are superimposed without any processing. View various colors when each color is scraped off a little and is stacked together. This kind of design was created. Yellow scrap plate, magenta scrape plate, and cyan scrape plate. The black part is an overlap of 100% yellow, 100% magenta, and 100% cyan. Scraping of colors to create colorful letters, a unique technique was born. Making full use of this technique, I have tried many character designs. The representative of that is the design of the box of the book Brilliant 100 Haiku. The author, Kunio Tsukamoto, is a poet known as a master of modern tanka and an alchemist of brilliant words. Mr. Tsukamoto, who is already passed away, selected masterpieces that caught his eye from among contemporary Japanese haiku and wrote his own unique interpretation of that. Mr. Kunio Tsukamoto's own language is also full of fascination and sophistication. Just by looking at the several haiku on the front of this box, I think you can sense that it is unusual and wordy. For example, Ikuya Kato's stamens meet Spartan rose. I smell my father and imagine a rhinoceros in the study, a work by Shuji Terayama. The design of this book is a collection of 100 haiku poems that evoke a sharp sense of language arranged in a gorgeous combination of phrases. Scripting the letters makes their color bloom. This is a design from 1974. We have already seen the next one at the previous workshop, the cover design of the magazine U issue number 8 that I designed with Seigo Matsuoka in 1975. I cut and pasted letters of various sizes to create a dummy version, and Mr. Matsuoka would write comments with a slightly different number of characters. It is a design that is pasted together while adjusting it properly. The scrape characters or the superimposition of colors becomes visible in the title or the apple on the bottom right. The rest of the text in black is an overlap of 100% yellow, 100% magenta, and 100% cyan. In other words, this cover is a tricolor print. Black ink has not been used. In the mid 1970s, I was experimenting with various designs that would serve as a practical example of subtractive color mixing. One of my well-known works is the poster for Tokyo International Print Biennale exhibition. That is because it's a culmination of the methods I have talked about so far. The characters and images of this poster are designed with a combination of scraping, blurring, and fading. For example, this part is a text taken from Da Vinci's memoirs. Here are various forms, here are various colors, light elements of all parts of the whole universe, all of which are reduced to one point. What a wonderful point. This passage from his memoirs is expressed through the union of blurring, fading, and scraping. The technique of coloring letters developed into yet another technique. 1970s, just around the exciting time of the Osaka Expo, when the science and technology field in Japan had an explosive growth, inspired by the launches of America's Earth observation satellites, there was a new device for processing colors. Various conditions on the surface of the Earth are captured by satellite, and the digital data is converted into radio waves and transmitted to the Earth. A method to make it easier to see ground surface information, such as weather, water, or resource distribution by infrared probing, was explored. A conversion device was developed that gives hues to the numerical changes in the sent data and then colors them so that distribution state can be understood at a glance. This was towards the end of the 60s. It was called color analyzer. This is the design of the cover of a document reportage that was made using this color analyzer. In the midst of heavy snowfall, an Argentinian aircraft was forced to land on top of the snow-capped Andes Mountains. Most of the passengers were safe and spent a span of 70 days in the snowy mountains waiting to be rescued. However, only half of them were able to return home. When investigating the reason for that, it became known that the survivors ate the flesh of the dead. Cannibalism was considered taboo in Europe, which believed in Christianism. This document, that collected the testimonies of those who ate human flesh, which was taboo, generated a huge reaction. In Japan, it was published by Hibonsha. I designed this word survivor as if it had human meat attached to it. I photographed the colored characters displayed on the monitor scheme of the color analyzer and used them as materials for the cover design. At that time, it was rare to use characters that appear on a TV monitor like this as design material. I think the color analyzer is still being used. I will introduce here yet another slightly different method for coloring letters. This is a calendar design for an enterprise called Toto in 1990. The illustrations are absent-mindedly present around the dates. They look blur, like they are slowly permeating. This is how it looks when enlarged. For example, this is an eye drawn by European etching. It was originally a black and white line drawing, but its cut is shifted little by little to show it as an overlap of yellow, magenta, and cyan colors. For example, like this. In this way, with a different image. It is a diagram showing the movement of a sphere, but it is slightly shifted and superimposed. The dates are not shifted. Also, the shifts in the figure are not all in the same direction. For example, the upper fountain is shifted left and right. The lower left fountain is shifted up and down. By changing the direction of displacement in this way, the blur effect that makes you want to blink your eyes somehow appears all over. The prototype for this idea is the same idea as the black and white design we saw at the beginning. A black single color copperweight engraving is shifted and printed in 3 colors. With just that design, it looks as if it is colored. I discovered this method also of shifting YMC like this, which makes the blurring interesting. This is the design of a book cover. Here as well, the focus is on shifting technique. Let us look at another book design, Lectures on Therapeutic Education by Rudolf Steiner. As a young man, Steiner experienced firsthand just how good the souls of disabled people are. That is said to be the major support for Steiner's anthroposophical movement. Steiner is said to have incorporated the characteristic of disabled people, that is, the awakening of the soul's potential, into the various treatments he developed. This is a book that speaks about, a little different from ordinary people, the shift of the soul is expressed by the shift of 3 colors YMC. These two designs blur when viewed from a distance, and I think they have a strange effect that shakes your perception and makes you think, oh. I tried using this shift design in poster design as well. This is a poster of Indonesian theater performance. It was promoted by Asian Cultural Center, which actively advanced the introduction of Asian culture. The part where the color shifts and the part where the character is studied are flattered. If all of it is shifted, it is considered to be poor printing, a printing mistake. Therefore, the introduction of contents and the numbers of the date are considered. In other words, while leaving evidence that printing was not a failure, the shifted parts are boldly mixed in. It is a design of such a method. Next is the poster for a Thai film festival. It is a poster from the same series as the Asian Cultural Center. This is a scene when this series was pasted in the premises of the station. Seen from a distance, it seems that the people who sensed the strange effect of the shift stopped their feet for a while and stared at it. By the way, this kind of color shift method is very actively used in the book I made by incorporating binocular vision called the Book of Stars. The three-dimensional effect of the Book of Stars, when seen using a pair of glasses with dual colors red and blue filter, is actually created by shifting the position of two star colors red and blue. The three-dimensional effect is designed based on the principle of color shift. When you casually look up at the twinkling starlight in the night sky, it looks as if it is stuck to a virtual spherical surface called the celestial sphere. Even if there is a difference in the brilliance of the first and second magnitude stars, It feels as if all the stars are shining from the same distance. However, in reality, the stars are scattered endlessly in the vastness of space, so the distance separating the Earth from each star should be different. For example, this is Ursa Major. If you look a little sideways at the constellation chart on a celestial sphere, in this image, the position of the Earth is on the left side, but it is surprising that it spreads as far as 50 light years to more than 1,000 light years, a distance that exceeds expectations. You can see that the sharp drawing of the Big Dipper from head to neck is bent as if it is snapped. The Hydra constellation also floats in the space with its body undulating back and forth like this. In the three-dimensional constellation map that I drew, I arranged the distance to the stars in 6 stages. As you can see from this drawing, the principle of the three-dimensional work is simple, and the distance between the shift of the red and blue stars expresses the distance of the stars. For example, in the Ursa Major constellation, if we make the third star from the top, Epsilon and Iota, which matches its position with the heel of the foot, there are wide gaps in the shift of the red on the right side and the blue on the left. They jump 3 cm out of the paper and appear as the closest stars. On the other hand, the psi scar at the base of the forefoot is reversed as the blue on the right side and red on the left side. It becomes the farthest star and appears to recede into the depth of the paper by 3 cm. By intentionally shifting the stars of two colors, an astounding three-dimensional field was created. The discovery of the interest in shifting was a great opportunity for me to develop into three-dimensional drawing. Well, in chapter 1, we were able to see the behavior of characters that blur and fade, and my design method inspired by the depth of meaning along with experiments on the half-tone dot effect related to the mystery of visual perception. In chapter 2, titled Coloring the Letters, we have seen examples of color effects produced by printing ink, designs that focus on the fun of subtractive color mixing, experiments for contemporary music scores, and designs made with the help of color analyzers. In addition, we were also introduced to the special effects or 3D designs created using color shift technique. Characters imprinted on paper and waiting to be read, but the letters do not just line up to be given a voice or convey meaning. They are also a presence that carry a richer meaning alive with the ever-changing movement of blurring, fading, approaching, and receding, and at times are loaded into a multicolor spectrum. The topics introduced in these two characters are about my design experiments in touching on the various behaviors of characters.